Yo guys, welcome back to another video. Today, as you guys can see, we are going to be doing my review of none other than Iron Gold by Pierce Brown. This is book 4 of the Red Rising saga, and the first book in the Iron Gold tetralogy, which is the second section, the second arc of the Red Rising series. Yeah, I have some thoughts. I know that this book in particular is very divisive amongst fans of Red Rising. A lot of people who absolutely adored the first series don't care for this second series. But there's also a lot of people who, love the first series, say that the second series is even better, or even some people who didn't really care for the first series but are really digging this second series. So, a lot of people have very mixed opinions on this, and I'm definitely going to be letting you guys know my thoughts. So without further ado, let's get into it. But before, just want to take a quick second to say you should definitely join the Discord. It's in the description below. We'd love to have you talk about some books, games, whatever it may be. So definitely come join us. Let's get into it. Alright, so firstly, I thought this book was interesting in how it was told. It's the whole first trilogy. It's single POV. It's first person. So the main character Darrow is telling us what is happening as it's happening. But in this second series, it's multi POV, but it maintains that first person narrative. Which I thought was really interesting. I don't know that I have ever read something like that before. I'm trying to look back, but I think this might be the first series I've ever read that has done that. So there are multiple characters telling us what's happening as it's happening. So that, when I first started reading it, definitely threw me off. I was not expecting that whatsoever, and so like the first little bit of the book, I was invested in the story, but I wasn't feeling it super heavy, just because of that, and it definitely did take some time to get used to. And of course, we get introduced to a couple new characters who are brand new to this series. Of course, we follow Darrow, but we're also put into the mind of Lysander, who becomes kind of a cool character. You guys know is the Loon heir. It's Octavia's grandson. He's grown up now, and he's a pretty cool character to follow. I love his whole section with Cassius and stuff, which I'll talk more about here in a minute. But the two other characters we are introduced to are Illyria and Ephraim. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. But both of those characters, like I said, are brand new, and so because we don't have any prior knowledge about them, those two definitely also took a little bit of time to get used to. I'm actually not going to talk about Darrow first. I'm going to actually start with Lysander. I really enjoyed his part. His section was probably one of the most interesting parts about this book. At first, it definitely gave me some like space western kind of vibes, which I was really loving, because they're basically outlaws. Him and Cassius sort of raised him a little bit, trained him, and they're out basically fighting space pirates and defending was it Luna? I think that they're defending, or just the rim in general, or not the rim, but like the core, I guess. Is that correct? I don't know, but they're just like doing their part, just like fighting space pirates and answering distress calls and stuff like that. So it reminded me of almost like a Guardians of the Galaxy, Cowboy Bebop kind of thing. Space western, which I'm a big fan of. I think that is a super dope genre. One of my favorites personally. But then it goes off in a little bit of a different direction, which I did not mind at all. I am really wondering what's going to happen next with him, because that's going to bring some heavy conflict into the next couple of books. So very interested to see what happens, but I wasn't feeling his character at first really either. Or at least by the end of it, I wasn't really feeling him too much. Like, I like him as a character, but I think some of the decisions he makes are really stupid. And again, he's also supposed to be like young and somewhat inexperienced, and he's a prince pretty much, so he has everything always given to him on a silver platter. That's sort of the idea, but this whole time, like, Cassius keeps telling him to, like, not do something, and then he'll just turn around and do it, or like he keeps keeping secrets from Cassius, which stabs them in the back literally every single time. Like, I swear it happened like 4 times, and I don't know, in that sense I feel like it was a little bit repetitive, and I was kind of sick of him making stupid decisions, but I still maintain that he was an interesting and entertaining character to follow. Moving on to Lyria, she was really cool. She was another part of the story that I thought was most interesting. I really like the idea that as this time has passed from book 3, when they toppled this empire, it's all like, woo, we, destroyed this evil empire, but where do we go from there? Like, sure, this empire was, it was bad. It kept the little guys down, it allowed slavery and whatnot. But at least it was a system. And now we're struggling in this book to have a fresh system that actually works. Like, the one thing that worked with the society or whatever was that, yes, people were mistreated, but they ruled with like an iron hand, or iron fist rather. And there was like a system in place, and it was like that for hundreds of years. But now there's just so much chaos and turmoil as they're switching over to a democracy, and everything's just kind of screwed up, and there's people, there's riots, and there's poverty, and while all of our main characters are, generals and politicians that are really high up there, they're rich and powerful, I like the idea of, once again, zeroing in on a lowly red. It really brings it back to the first book, where Darrow started. Now he's literally the most powerful being in this world. But now we get to like bring it back, almost come full circle, and experience almost what Darrow was experiencing with the society, but now with Darrow sort of being on the other end of the spectrum, and Lyria where Darrow was, if that makes sense. I like that sort of dichotomy in this first book. It's really interesting how they play with that. Her whole intro with her family in, like, not in the mines, but in basically a refugee camp. All of that was insane. I really liked her little origin story that we got. And it was a little bit slow for a minute, but once we got to towards the end of the book, the second half, when she's meeting with, forget the dude's name, Felipe, and, Felipe, and she gets involved with all of, like, the syndicate and the terrorist stuff, that I thought was awesome. Her whole character, when she's like running through the slums being chased by obsidians, and then she knows stuff that she's not supposed to know, and she's just like a servant that ended up talking to the wrong people at the wrong time, pretty much. And there's like, they're trying to keep all this under wraps because what is essentially a prince was just kidnapped. A bunch of people were killed. Just everything in that whole section with Ephraim and Lyria and Volga, when all of that transaction stuff happens with the Syndicate and the blowing out the shuttle or whatever. That whole section was awesome, and I really dug that. Moving on, I guess at this point to Ephraim, or Ephraim, again, not sure how to pronounce it. I thought he was really cool. And one thing I think that Pierce Brown does really well, and he is an example of this, is a really awesome blend of genres. This world allows for so many different genres, or like subgenres of sci-fi. Of course, like I said, with Cassius and Lysander, definitely gave me, some space opera, space western vibes, almost like kind of like a little bit of Star Wars, or like some Mandalorian episode 4 kind of vibes, mixed with like Cowboy Bebop and Guardians of the Galaxy. That's sort of what his part reminded me of. But then we have Ephraim, which is straight up cyberpunk. Which, after playing Cyberpunk 2077 somewhat recently, I am a big fan of. I was always a fan of Cyberpunk. I thought the idea of it was really cool, but especially after playing the game, that is a subgenre that excites me a lot. I absolutely love the cyberpunk subgenre. Now, we got to see a little bit of this in the first 2 books of the series, especially. I picked up on this when I read the first book, when Darrow first gets, taken out of the mines, and he's getting transformed and stuff, and there's all like the black market cybernetic enhancements and stuff like that. I was like, bro, this is straight up cyberpunk. And then we move into Golden Sun towards the beginning, when Darrow is being transported by the Greys to go meet with the Jackal in the slums, and there's like the club and stuff. Heavy cyberpunk vibes. So yeah, the cyberpunk subgenre is something that was only lightly covered in the first trilogy, but it's something that made me aware of the genre crossing capabilities of this series, and I really enjoy that. In this book, we just dive headfirst right into it, and we get to experience a cyberpunk heist story, pretty much. Really dope. We deal with like crazy syndicate stuff with, again, cybernetic enhancements, and like trying to gather a crew to like do this heist, and there's like the high stakes, and especially with how it all ties in with all of our characters that we know and love. His whole section ends up being really awesome, and that was, again, one of my favorite parts. I liked this book a lot. There were just some minor things that I don't know exactly how I'm feeling about, but I'm sure that as it progresses, some stuff will get solved, and we'll start moving into a direction that I really like again. As far as like the overall plot, again, this is like the first book of not a new series, but I feel like it might, just like with Red Rising, the first book, it took a minute to like get its footing, and the rest of the series ended up being awesome. I think that this is the same thing, where the story is kind of switching gears and going into a new direction, so this first book really needed some time. So I'm sure Dark Age and Lightbringer are going to be dope, but that's besides the point. We have one last character to talk about, Darrow, and surprisingly enough, his I might have liked the least in this book. So before I continue talking about Darrow, you guys should know that he is one of my favorite characters just in fiction that I've read recently. Really love his character. All of his motivations in the first 3 books made sense. I liked his character arc of learning leadership, like going from this slave to obviously being like a conqueror, but also the stuff he learns on the way from point A to point B. Again, leadership, but also like the burden of such leadership, and also like the friends and stuff he made along the way, and the relationship building. just overall, Darrow is an awesome character. But in this fourth book here, I think this is the worst Darrow has ever been. Not to say that I didn't like him at all, because he definitely had some awesome moments in this book, especially towards the end, and in the beginning I liked. But I can't help but feel that he has made so many stupid decisions in this book. Like, I understand where he's coming from, with, like, basically his role in all of this. Like, he is the leader of the Rising, pretty much. He is almost forced to destroy the last remnants of the old society that would pose a threat to everything that he's helped build at this point. Like, he can't just stop now. But at the same time, with all of, like, the relationships he's built with, like, friends and family and everything, you know, that he's gained from the first 3 books, I feel like he's losing his grasp on that. And, you know, one thing I fear that, again, I don't know if this is the case, this is just a theory that I have, but his son, Pax, I could see being a villain. Just, you know, him never being able to be there for his family. And I really liked that brief moment at the beginning of the book where Pax and him are, you know, on the hover bikes or whatever. Loved that moment. But you could just feel, like, the separation. And, you know, especially once he does leave at the end of, or not the end of that first section, when, you know, crap hits the fan, and, you know, he just looked back and saw his son, and they, like, made eye contact. Like, you could just feel his relationships breaking around him, and especially with Severo towards the end of this book too. You know, he's had some rocky times with Severo, but he's always been his bro. But you could just feel, like I said, those relationships being very strained throughout this book, and it's because of these decisions that he's making. And that's why when I finished this book, I wasn't exactly thrilled. Like with the other, like the first 3 books, once I finished them, that I always had like this sense of like, oh my god, what's going to happen next? But when finishing this book, I don't have such a sense of excitement as I do apprehension. And I'm like, oh god, Darrow, what have you done? Where is this going to go? Like, it's not super excited, where is this going to go? It's like where is this going to go? Kind of, you know what I mean? So, yeah. That's why I think Darrow, honestly, like, I love Darrow, but his character felt weaker than I was expecting in this book. So I'm hoping that, you know, it turns around a little bit. Yeah. How this book ended, with the decision that he made. Yeah, I don't know what to say about that. What I do know, though, and why I always love the angry characters, such as, you know, your Doomslayers, your Kratos, you know, just the character that always has the red mist, you know what I'm saying, is Darrow. You already know that because of what they've put him through and his family through, in this next book, he is going to whoop some ass, and it's going to be dope. So that's one thing I am looking forward to, is because, like, the last few lines where he said, I forget exactly what he said, but it's something along the lines of, you know, I put me being a father and a husband, I put that aside, and now I'm like God of War or some, like, that's not exactly what he said, but like, he's basically saying, I'm about to roll up on these hoes. So yeah, I'm excited. Like, don't get me wrong, I am apprehensive, but that last line did kind of get me. I was like, okay. But at the same time, these decisions he's making kind of tough. Overall, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna give this book a 4.5. If the first or the second two books at least, Golden Sun and Morning Star, in my opinion, are 5 out of 5. They're 5-star books. Love those two books. I think originally, I can't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure I had given Red Rising a 4.5. And after continuing the series, I'm probably going to bring that score down in retrospect. Honestly, the first book is more like a 4. I think that that's a good score. Bars. The second book, or not second book, but this fourth book, I think is more fitting with a 4.5. So that's where I'm going to stick it for now. Again, really enjoyed the book. There was just some, I feel like it was just trying to get its footing going into this new series, this new tetralogy, and this new arc of Red Rising. So I am excited to continue. I will say I don't know exactly when I'm going to get to Dark Age. I think I'm going to try to push and get quite a bit further through Words of Radiance before I start another Red Rising. Just because the whole reason why I read this is because I was waiting on Kayla to catch up with me on Words of Radiance, and she's about caught up with me now. So this week I'm going to be churning out some chapters on that, and so maybe next month sometime I will start Dark Age. We'll just have to see. But yeah, Pierce Brown continues to make another banger. Thank you all for watching. That's going to be about it for today. If you guys did go on to enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already, because I would greatly appreciate it. Yeah, and as always, like I said in the very beginning of the video, do your boy a favor, join the Discord. It's in the description. We'd love to have you talk about all sorts of things. It's really dope. And yeah, thank you all for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.